In the courtroom, a lot of things happen, especially when a convicted murderer tries everything to change the outcome of their sentencing. Today, we're going to see some of the craziest moments ever captured in courtrooms. It's where all the drama unfolds as lawyers argue, witnesses testify, and judges make decisions that can change lives. Get ready for some intense and unexpected moments as we delve into the world of courtroom drama. In the first situation, a person who was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison collapsed to the floor. A judge in Hamilton County refused a man's plea to change his guilty plea in a murder case that was 3 years old. Then, the judge gave him a life sentence in prison. Jaleel Smith Riley, who is 23 years old, admitted in court on August 11th that he committed aggravated murder and attempted murder. However, later he changed his mind and said he didn't do it, even though his lawyers told him not to. This week, Judge Charles Cupcake in Hamilton County decided not to accept Smith Riley's new statement and gave him a life sentence with no chance of ever getting out. Take a second now to subscribe and like the video to help the channel creating more content for you. After the judge told him his punishment, Smith Riley fell down on the floor of the courtroom. The police helped him stand up, and then he spoke out to the judge. "What's the punishment?" asked Smith Riley. He had also been given an additional 11 years in prison for trying to murder someone. It wasn't clear who Smith Riley was talking about. Smith Riley's lawyer told the court that they might appeal the decision, but they hadn't done it yet. Authorities reported that he was part of a group of 3 men who committed an armed robbery in Norwood. Court papers state that 2 men were sitting in a parked car when Smith Riley approached them and tapped on a window with a gun. According to the court documents, Smith Riley made the men get out of the car, searched his pockets, and then shot him in the head. The other men survived the attack. The documents further explain that Smith Riley leaned into the car and fired 2 shots at the other person, who was still seated. She passed away 3 days later from her injuries. Norwood Police Tom Fallon mentioned in an interview that besides pleading guilty, Smith Riley admitted to committing the crime. What do you think about this verdict? Comment it down below. In following case, a record-high sentencing was given to a Colorado carjacker. This case went viral after the court decided on the sentencing. A man from Colorado was found guilty of stealing 3 cars, one of which had a 4-year-old child in it. He has been given a punishment of 160 years in prison. This happened after a dangerous chase that was shown on live television. The man, Ryan Stone, who is 30 years old, was convicted in 11 serious crimes. These included trying to harm someone and severely injuring a police officer who tried to intervene, as stated by the Douglas County District Attorney's Office. Stone went to court and told the judge he felt sorry for what he did. He did a series of crimes that went through 5 counties and was shown live on TV by a helicopter from a Denver news station. It all started in Longmont, a town about 30 miles away from Denver. Stone was supposed to be in court for drug charges but didn't show up. He stole a big car from a store there. Inside the car was a 4-year-old boy. He drove off quickly, heading south on Interstate 25 towards Denver. Police chased him, and he was going more than 100 miles per hour. In Brighton, he crashed the car into another car, but he left the little boy who wasn't hurt in the car and ran away. The news on TV showed this happening. Then he pulled a woman out of her car, took her car, and drove off fast. Stone crashed the car near Denver International Airport. Then, he stole another car and ran away. Trooper Bellaman from the Colorado State Patrol tried to stop him by using stop sticks to puncture the tires of the stolen car, but Stone hit him. Later, Stone crashed the 3rd car and got caught after a short chase on foot. When Stone made phone calls from jail, he blamed the trooper for the injuries he got, including a broken leg. These calls were released by prosecutors. This was by far the craziest court case in a long time. A lot of people watched the car chase and the courtroom case live and comment on it on social media. What are your thoughts? Comment it down below. Is the verdict right for his actions? Take a second now to subscribe and like the video to help the channel creating more content for you. The next court case became famous everywhere because of how the defendant looked. A man killed a detective in a police building and stole his gun. Now he's asking a federal judge to cancel his conviction for first-degree murder. He says his lawyers from Boston didn't do a good job because they didn't keep important legal arguments for later. This man, Esteban Carpio, is taking the state to court, saying his rights were violated. He thinks he didn't get a fair trial because the judge's instructions to the jury forced them to consider mental health when deciding the verdict. Carpio also says the jury found him guilty of murdering the detective, even though he was mentally ill at the time and didn't understand that what he was doing was wrong. He says his rights were broken because his lawyers during the trial, Robert and Kirsten from Boston, didn't understand the rules of Rhode Island courts. So they didn't argue for a new trial after he was found guilty. Because of this, Carpio couldn't bring up issues for appeal to the state Supreme Court. The state's highest court rejected Carpio's appeal in 2012, partly saying that his lawyers chose not to ask for a new trial on purpose. Carpio used to work as a barber in Boston, but turned into a pimp and a drug dealer. Now he's serving a life sentence without parole at a correctional institution in Suffield. On April 16, 2005, the police in Providence were asking Carpio questions at their headquarters about his role in the stabbing of 84-year-old Madeline Gatta. Let's see how the incident happened. When Carpio asked for water, he was left alone with Alan in a conference room on the 3rd floor. That's when he took Alan's gun and shot the detective. Alan, who was 50 years old, had a retired police captain as his father and 2 teenage daughters. He died within minutes. Carpio managed to escape through a window but was caught after a struggle. When he appeared in court for the first time, his face was covered by a plastic mask and his eyes were swollen almost shut. Carpio didn't speak in court. Instead, his lawyer, Sheketov, argued that Carpio was going through a severe mental condition called psychosis. This made it hard for him to understand that what he was doing was wrong, and he couldn't control his actions because of it. Did he get what he deserved? In this following case, Adrian Dunn, a man who was found guilty of murder, had a tough time with deputies after the court gave its verdict. On an afternoon, the murder trial of Adrian Dunn, a former convict, came to a dramatic close. After the jury handed down a life sentence, there was a chaotic scene in the courtroom. Dunn had a brief struggle with some deputies from Bexar County, who were trying to remove him. He also shouted profanities during this altercation. The trial concerned the death of Charles, who was shot in the back at an apartment complex parking lot. Prosecutors claimed it happened during a drug deal. In their closing arguments, they emphasized Dunn's past criminal record, arguing that it warranted a life sentence. He's been to prison twice for possessing a firearm after this murder, prosecutor Nicole Phillips told the jury. He committed another shooting before this murder, and he's shown zero remorse. Dunn's lawyer argued that a shorter prison sentence, like 35 to 40 years, would be better. He said it would give Adrian a chance to improve himself while in prison. This way, when he eventually gets out, he could contribute positively to our community. But despite the lawyer's plea, the jury decided after about 2 hours of deliberation that Adrian would receive a life sentence in prison. In a surprising moment in court, named Jordan Fuss, who was drunk when he caused a crash in 2014 that led to the death of a 6-year-old boy, has been given a 14-year prison sentence. Fuss, who is 22 years old and from Davie, was visibly shaking when he appeared in court with his family. The prosecutors wanted him to get the maximum sentence of 15 years for killing Santiago Giraldo. However, Fuss's lawyer asked for a shorter sentence, saying that Fuss feels extremely sorry and has even thought about ending his own life because of it. During the trial, the Giraldo family cried as the defense tried to get Fuss a lighter sentence. Fuss himself apologized to the family while testifying. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I wish it was me." Fuss's lawyer said he knew his client would go to prison, but he asked the judge to be kind. "I'd give anything to bring him back," Fuss said. But the people who prosecute crime said Fuss confessed to drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana after the accident. Fuss was 19 years old when he was driving over 90 miles per hour on a road. It was October 3, 2014, just before midnight, when he crashed the car into another car at Davie Road. The police found that Fuss had a blood alcohol level of 0.21%, much higher than the legal limit of 0.08%. His friend, who was 21 years old and with him in the car, bought the alcohol for him. During the trial, Santiago's father spoke directly to Fuss. He said he could never forgive him. "You didn't just end my son's life," he said. "You ended mine, too." Fuss's family, including his mother, father, brother, and girlfriend whom he met online after the accident, all spoke in court. As Fuss was being fingerprinted, he tearfully shared a final message with his loved ones. "I love you all so much," he said. In another court situation, a teenager named Antonio Barbeau has been sentenced to life in prison for causing the death of his great-grandmother. He'll have a chance for parole in 36 years. This decision came after he admitted guilt for first-degree intentional homicide on June 24th. He made this admission as part of an agreement with the court. Barbeau and Nathan Pape are accused of a very serious crime. They're charged with deliberately killing 78-year-old Barbara Olson, who was Barbeau's great-grandmother. It happened back in September 2012 at her home in Sheboygan Falls. They are said to have used a hammer and hatchet to do this awful deed. Barbeau decided to change his plea from saying he didn't do it because of mental illness to saying he doesn't contest the charges. As part of a plea deal, he could be considered for parole in 36 years. He also gave testimony during Pape's trial. A doctor who studies mental health said that Barbeau has trouble thinking because he got hit by a car when he was 10 years old. This might be why he acts the way he does. When he tried to talk in court on Monday, he couldn't finish what he wanted to say. His lawyer had to speak for him. Barbeau said, "I know I don't show my feelings. I'm not even sure why. But just because I don't show them doesn't mean I don't have them. I hurt someone's mom, grandma, sister, or friend. I didn't have the right to do that. Because of one choice, I've made many people's lives worse." Barbeau might have a chance to leave prison in 24 years. That's when he'll be 50 years old, even though he's a teenager now. In the latest strange courtroom story, a woman from Georgia is being accused of a terrible crime. She allegedly used a baseball bat to fatally hit a 3-year-old child because she believed the child had taken a cupcake without permission. The prosecutors in Atlanta declared that a woman who used a baseball bat to fatally hit a toddler for taking a cupcake has been given a life sentence in prison. LaShirley Morris, 29, admitted on December 11th that she killed 3-year-old Kejuan Mason by hitting him with a baseball bat because he ate a cupcake without permission over 2 years ago. Her sister, Glendria Morris, 27, who was the child's guardian, has also been accused in the toddler's death. She is currently waiting for her trial. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office spokesperson mentioned that the two sisters were initially charged with multiple counts of murder, as well as aggravated assault and cruelty to children. The child ate a cupcake that he was not given permission to eat, Chris Hopper, a spokesperson for the District Attorney's Office, told the news. The defendants referred to him as stealing the cupcake, and he was beaten to death because of it. LaShirley has the chance to get out on parole in 30 years. By then, she'll be in her late 60s. Her lawyer, Kenneth Wayne Shepard, who was assigned to her by the court, said he believes the parole board will make the right decision when the time comes. He also mentioned that LaShirley, who is currently 29, feels sorry for what she did. He thinks the court's decision to give her this sentence is fair. Last year, LaShirley got in trouble again. She was accused of hurting 2 other women in prison. Which courtroom case do you think was the most dramatic one? If you know court cases that could be featured on the channel, please write it in the comments section. Take a second to write your thoughts down below. Please subscribe to our channel and check out one of these videos. See you next time around. Take care.